to Snoozecast, the podcast designed to help you fall asleep. Find us on snoozecast.com and follow us on Instagram at Snoozecast to find behind-the-scenes content. If you enjoy our show, you can support us by writing a review on the Apple Podcasts app or sharing your favorite episode as an Instagram or Facebook story. And of course, you can share us with a friend. This episode is brought to you by our Patreon supporters and by Wide Plains. Tonight, for our episode, Halvor and the Trolls, we'll read a story called Soria Moria Castle from the Red Fairy Book. This episode is dedicated to our patron Heidi, who loves the red, blue, and green fairy book stories best. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. There was once upon a time a couple of folks who had a son called Halvor. Ever since he had been a little boy, he had been unwilling to do any work and had just sat raking about among the ashes. His parents sent him away to learn several things, but Halvor stayed nowhere. For when he had been gone 2 or 3 days, he always ran away from his master, hurried off home, and sat down in the chimney corner to grub among the ashes again. One day, however, a sea captain came and asked Halvor if he hadn't a fancy to come with him and go to sea and behold foreign lands, and Halvor had a fancy for that, so he was not long in getting ready. How long they sailed, I have no idea, but after a long, long time, there was a terrible storm, and when it was over and all had become calm again, they knew not where they were, for they had been driven away to a strange coast of which none of them had any knowledge. As there was no wind at all, they lay there, becalmed, and Halvor asked the skipper to give him leave to go on shore to look about him, for he would much rather do that than lie there and sleep. "Dost thou think that thou art fit to go where people can see thee?" said the skipper. "Thou hast no clothes but those rags thou art going about in." Halvor still begged to leave, and at last got it. But he was to come back at once if the wind began to rise. So he went to shore, and it was a delightful country. Whithersoever he went, there were wide plains with fields and meadows, but as for people, there were none to be seen. The wind began to rise, but Halvor thought he had not seen enough yet, and that he would like to walk about a little longer to try if he could not meet somebody. So, after a while, he came to a great highway, which was so smooth that an egg might have been rolled along it without breaking. Halvor followed this, and when evening drew near, he saw a big castle far away in the distance, and there were lights in it. So, as he had now been walking the whole day and had not brought anything to eat with him, he was frightfully hungry. Nevertheless, the nearer he came to the castle, the more intrigued he became. A fire was burning in the castle, and Halvor went into the kitchen, which was more magnificent than any kitchen he had ever yet beheld. There were vessels of gold and silver, but not one human being was to be seen. When Halvor had stood there for some time, and no one had come out, he went in and opened a door, and inside a princess was sitting at her wheel, spinning. "Nay," she cried, "can human folk dare to come hither? But the best thing that you can do is to go away again, for if not, the troll will find you. A troll with 3 heads lives here." I should have been just as well pleased if he had had 4 heads or more, for I should have enjoyed seeing the fellow, said the youth, "and I won't go away, for I have done no harm, but you must give me something to eat, for I am frightfully hungry." When Halvor had eaten his fill, the princess told him to try if he could wield the sword which was hanging on the wall. But he could not wield it, nor could he even lift it up. "Well then, you must take a drink out of that bottle which is hanging by its side, for that's what the troll does whenever he goes out and wants to use the sword," said the princess. Halvor took a draught, and in a moment he was able to swing the sword about with perfect ease, and now he thought it was high time for the troll to make his appearance. And at that very moment he came, panting for breath. Halvor got behind the door. "Hootatoo," said the troll as he put his head in at the door. "It smells just as if there were a human man here." "Yes, you shall learn that there is," said Halvor, and he swung the sword and scared away the troll, who went running in fear. The princess was so rejoiced to be free that she danced and sang. But then she remembered her sisters and said, "If my sisters were but free too." "Where are they?" asked Halvor. So she told him where they were. One of them had been taken away by a troll to his castle, which was 6 miles off, and the other had been carried off to a castle which was 9 miles farther off still. "But now," said she, "you must first help me clean up all this mess in the kitchen here." Halvor was so strong now that he cleared everything away and made all clean and tidy very quickly. So then they ate and drank and were happy, and next morning he set off in the gray light of dawn. He gave himself no rest, but walked or ran the livelong day. When he came in sight of the castle, he was again just a little afraid. It was much more splendid than the other, but here too there was not a human being to be seen. So Halvor went into the kitchen and did not linger there either, but went straight in. "Nay, do human folk dare to come here?" cried the second princess. "I know not how long it has been since I came myself, but during all that time I have never seen a human man. It will be better for you to depart at once, for a troll lives here who has 6 heads." "No, I shall not go," said Halvor. "Even if he had 6 more, I would not." "He will swallow you up alive," said the princess. But she spoke to no purpose, for Halvor would not go. He was not afraid of the troll, but he wanted some meat and drink, for he was hungry after his journey. So she gave him as much as he would have, and then once more she tried to make him go away. "No," said Halvor, "I will not go, for I have not done anything wrong, and I have no reason to be afraid." "He won't ask any questions about that," said the princess, "for he will take you without leave or right. But as you will not go, try if you can wield that sword which the troll uses in battle." He could not brandish the sword, so the princess said that he was to take a drink from the flask which hung by its side, and when he had done that, he could wield the sword. Soon afterwards the troll came, and he was so large and stout that he was forced to go sideways to get through the door. When the troll got his first head in, he cried, "Hootatoo, it smells of a human man here." With that, Halvor wielded the sword in a way that sent the troll scampering away in fright. The princess was now exceedingly delighted, but then she remembered her sisters and wished that they too were free. Halvor thought that might be managed and wanted to set off immediately. But first, he had to help the princess to clean her very messy bathroom. So it was not until morning that he set forth on his way. It was a long way to the castle, and he both walked and ran to get there in time. Late in the evening, he caught sight of it, and it was very much more magnificent than either of the others. And this time, he was not in the least afraid, but went into the kitchen and then straight on inside the castle. There, a princess was sitting who was so beautiful that there was never anyone to equal her. She too said what the others had said, that no human folk had ever been there since she had come, and entreated him to go away again, or else the troll would swallow him up alive. The troll had 9 heads, she told him. Yes, and if he had 9 added to the 9, and then 9 more still, I would not go away, said Halvor, and went and stood by the stove. The princess begged him very prettily to go, lest the troll should devour him. But Halvor said, "Let him come when he will." So she gave him the troll's sword and bade him take a drink from the flask to enable him to wield it. At that moment, the troll came, breathing hard, and he was ever so much bigger and stouter than either of the others. And he too was forced to go sideways to get in through the door. "Hootatu, what an awful smell of human there is here," said he. Then Halvor made some fancy sword swishing, and this troll as well paused a moment and then slunk away. And now all the princesses came to the castle and were together again, and they were happier than they had ever been in their lives. And they were delighted with Halvor, and he with them, and he was to choose the one he liked best. But Halvor went about and was so strange and so mournful and quiet that the princesses asked what it was that he longed for, and if he did not like to be with them. He said that he did like to be with them, for they had enough to live on, and he was very comfortable there. But he longed to go home, for his father and mother were alive, and he had a great desire to see them again. They thought that this might be easily done. "You shall go and return in perfect safety if you will follow our advice," said the princesses. So he said that he would do nothing that they did not wish. Then they dressed him so splendidly that he was like a king's son. They put a ring on his finger, and it was one which would enable him to go there and back again by wishing. But they told him that he must not throw it away or name their names, for if he did, all his magnificence would be at an end, and then he would never see them more. If I were but at home again, or if home were but here, said Halvor, and no sooner had he wished this than it was granted. Halvor was standing outside his father and mother's cottage before he knew what he was about. The darkness of night was coming on, and when the father and mother saw such a splendid and stately stranger walk in, they were so startled that they both began to bow and curtsy. Halvor then inquired if he could stay there and have lodging for the night. No, that he certainly could not. We can give you no such accommodation, they said, for we have none of the things that are needful when a great lord like you is to be entertained. It will be better for you to go up to the farm. It is not far off. You can see the chimney pots from here, and there they have plenty of everything. Halvor would not hear of that. He was absolutely determined to stay where he was. But the old folks stuck to what they had said and told him that he was to go to the farm where he could get food and drink, whereas they themselves had not even a chair to offer him. No, said Halvor, I will not go up there till early tomorrow morning. Let me stay here tonight. I can sit down on the hearth. They could say nothing against that. So Halvor sat down on the hearth and began to rake about among the ashes, just as he had done before, when he lay there idling away his time. They chattered much about many things, and told Halvor of this and of that, and at last he asked them if they had never had any child. Yes, they said. They had had a boy who was called Halvor, but they did not know where he had gone, and they could not even say how he was doing. Could I be he? Said Halvor. I should know him well enough, said the old woman, rising. Our Halvor was so idle and slothful that he never did anything at all, and he was so ragged that one hole ran into another all over his clothes. Such a fellow as he was not ever to be into such a man as you are, sir. In a short time, the old woman had to go to the fireplace to stir the fire. And when the blaze lit up Halvor, as it used to do when he was at home raking up the ashes, she knew him again. "Good heavens, is that you, Halvor?" said she. And such gladness fell on the old parents that there were no bounds to it. And now he had to relate everything that had befallen him, and the old woman was so delighted with him that she would take him up to the farm at once to show him to the girls who had formerly looked down on him so. "He looks like a prince," they said, at the moment Halvor entered. The girls were so astonished that they left their kirtles lying in the chimney corner. When they came over, they were so shamefaced of what they used to say that they hardly dared to look at Halvor. Halvor said to them, "You always thought you were so dainty, but you should have seen the eldest princess whom I set free. And you look like herdswomen compared to her. And the second princess is also much prettier than you. But the one who is my sweetheart is more beautiful than either sun or moon. I wish to heaven that they were here, and then you would see them." Scarcely had he said this before they were standing by his side. But then he was sorrowful, for the words which they had said came to his mind. Up at the farm, a great feast was made ready for the princesses, and much respect paid to them, but they would not stay there. "We want to go down to your parents," they said to Halvor, "so we will go out and look about us." He followed them out, and they came to a large pond outside the farmhouse. There they sat down. There was a large pond outside the farmhouse where they sat. Very near the water, there was a pretty green bank. The princesses thought it would be pleasant to sit and look out over the water. When they had sat for a short time, the youngest princess said, "I may as well comb your hair a little, Halvor." So Halvor laid his head down on her lap, and she combed it. And it was not long before he fell asleep. As he slept peacefully, she took her ring from him and put another in its place. And then she said to her sisters, "Hold me as I am holding you. I would that we were back at our castles." When Halvor awoke, he knew that the princesses were gone. he would not stay, but bade his mother and father farewell, saying that he would never see them more.